Okay, and we're live. We're back with the Scent Spotlight, the show that's highlighting all the amazing creators on the Scent platform. And today's show is a special one. I'm really looking forward to it. Our guest today is a prolific artist on Super Rare and a fellow Scent user. To me, their collage style of art is instantly recognizable for its infusion of nostalgic punk and gritty glamour, as well as the running theme of old, decaying, and corrupting fiat money. As both a collector and a personal admirer from afar, I'm super stoked to be able to speak with Miss Al Simpson. Welcome to the Spotlight.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm a full-time artist based in Edinburgh, Scotland, and as you've touched on, I specialise in collage. And now most of my practice is now completely digital. I started off as an analog, I suppose you would call it, collage artist, and gradually moved more and more over into digital. And I would say probably about 90% of my practice now is purely crypto, which is incredibly exciting because what you can really start to do with collage and digital, I think, knows no boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, your work constantly amazes me. It's just so rich and so deep. And it's cool that you mentioned that you used to be fully analog and now you're almost entirely digital. But I'm wondering if you could walk us through in a little bit more detail your creative journey. Like, how did you actually come to find your passion with collage art? Like, did you have a particular style previous to discovering that? And then just walking us through into when you discovered digital art and then crypto art.
Okay, well, I've drawn and painted my whole life. I grew up watching a lot of American TV shows over here in Scotland, whilst gaming with one of the first ZX81s. And I also was always surrounded by my mother's fashion magazines, so kind of grew up with this strange mix of hyper consumerism mixed with computers and so on. So I've always drawn and painted, and obviously, drawing on magazines always appealed to me. So I started off very traditional, but started to try and explore more of a graffiti style, just mainly as a means of freeing up the traditional practice. But that then led on to exploring collage, which I've now focused on for about the past 10 years, and really, really wanting to push the boundaries, as I said, with collage beyond something that's quite traditional. So that's really where it's developed. I mean, I think my style now is probably figurative hyper-consumerism with elements of graffiti and urban landscape. I think that's probably the best way of describing it.
Yeah, that's accurate. How did you actually come across the crypto art scene? Were you digital before that, or was the transition to digital and crypto something that happened simultaneously?
Well, I suppose I'd only really been digital before that in the way that you try and present your work online, taking it into Photoshop just to tidy it up. But I'd never crossed the line, as it were, into actually starting to play around with my original collages in digital until it was actually Non-Origin who had been following my work online and had invited me to digitize my collages and come onto their site. And they were great. They actually talked me through the whole process and on getting online and with the crypto art. So they were really responsible for me crossing over. And ever since I've done that, it's just grown and grown, and I'm completely passionate about it. And I'm a full-time artist, so this has made a big difference to my practice. So it's all down to Non-Origin. It's their fault.
It's their fault. Well, thank you, Non-Origin, for bringing Miss Al Simpson over here. Actually, I've been in discussion with a bunch of artists on the scene talking about like what needs to happen in order for the crypto art scene to develop. And one of the running themes is just onboarding more and more artists. And well, since you went through that onboarding process thanks to Non-Origin, I'm just wondering if you could like briefly talk about what, if an artist is curious about crypto art, of tokenizing their digital work, what do they need to know? What do they need to do in order to do that? Would the best resource be Non-Origin or a site like Mintable or Mintbase? what would you recommend to that creator that wants to dip their toes and start tokenizing the work?
I think, I mean, obviously the two big platforms, Super Rare and Known Origin, are great places to start. I mean, as I said, Known Origin actually talked me through the process of getting my MetaMask set up. But obviously on Cent, there's a lot of information. You can see how other creators are making work and how there's new creators coming on all the time. So I think it's dipping your toe in and then gradually becoming fully immersive. But it's stage by stage. I mean, I've invited quite a few analog artists on and invited them to speak to the platforms. But I suppose it's a process, isn't it? And it's, as an analog artist, I think you've got to change something in your mindset. You've actually got to go, right, I'm going to do this. And that, I think, is maybe difficult at the moment for quite a lot of analog artists. I think there's still a lot of people that want to hold on to that traditional art market. And a lot of people have been trained, haven't they, in that way? And it's quite a different mindset, crypto art. I see it as a movement. I really do. I think it's incredible. But I think it's quite a different mindset. So I think I would advise anyone thinking about it or hearing about it, just dip your toe in, start to read on some of the platforms, start to read about it, have a look at some of the other artists, but give it a go. What have you got to lose? Apart from the fact that it's always on the blockchain forever.
Yeah, be careful what you upload. It'll be there forever. Well, circling back to your actual art and your work, when you're introducing yourself, you talked about your childhood experiences, your exposure to US TV shows, US culture broadly, the fashion magazines that your mom had lying around, and like graffiti and traditional art. But in your artwork, there's also like a very prominent running theme of like this old decaying fiat money with its corrupting influence. I'm just wondering if you could sort of speak to that. And then like if there's anything else about you yourself that's reflected in your works other than those childhood experiences.
Okay, well, the Old Money Corrupts is a series which is really multi-layered. It's actually part of a bigger theme of my practice, which has been looking at the promise of luxury and wealth that's fed to us on an almost daily basis, and how that promise can really corrupt your mind, body, and soul. Obviously, naturally, with the advent of the blockchain and cryptocurrency, we can really see how corrupt the traditional wealth structures are, particularly the lack of transparency. But I also like the idea of old money being kind of like a virus, almost like a parasite on its host, where the host doesn't really realise until maybe it's too late how far down the line they've gone. So I like the idea of almost a visceral corruption of the body, the actual face, almost quite horrific, because I think all good art really has to be standing on that precipice, doesn't it? It almost has to be standing looking over the cliff. I'll show you something that maybe might look a bit horrific to get the point across, because art can be beautiful, but it can also disturb, and I think that element interests me. Yeah, but I think as a female, we are marketed heavily, and I think John Berger talked about it in the Ways of Seeing. This almost idea of yourself as a woman through a man's gaze. And these fashion magazines really, really interest me. I think it's, the Vogue, this whole promise of the Vogue magazine. And I just love to disrupt that. I just love to corrupt and rip it up. Because, apparently Vogue invented the term cellulite in 1973.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, they invented that. To give women a way to really hate themselves. So that's probably why I, having grown up almost with these images, I really like to subvert them and distort them. So that's probably the element of me that's in it. But I think what's amazing about the crypto art scene is that it allows you to explore your practice along with, obviously putting work up on the blockchain and, attracting collectors, and the community is incredible. Such a supportive community. I think it's a real movement now.
No, I'm 100% on board with the fact that this is a movement and it's growing and it's spreading. And the community is just, it's so phenomenal and so collaborative, so helpful, and opening, and just picking up the phone and speaking right now. Like that's amazing to have
Mm.
such access and support within the community. Getting back to what you were talking about with your artwork trying to stand on that really risky precipice of being disturbing, of trying to tear something up and straddling that with some beauty and some attractive qualities. You do that so amazingly well. You
Thank you.
really do. You can just see that, like the virus, like old corrupting fiat really starting to take over a lot of the pictures. You see the actual literal tears that you've made into these images. It is disturbing. There's poses that are almost sickly, but there's this amazing attractiveness to it. I think a lot of that has to do with your color choice. It's just arresting. Like that just draws you in, and then you start to see all these other details and you're like, oh, this is something much more. But you're also so prolific. You're pumping out a lot of work, and your work is, like I mentioned before, like deeply layered. The meaning is very rich. And I'm really curious about the actual process behind it. What does your toolkit look like? How do you actually go from idea or conception of an idea to a final product?
I like to actually be quite old school. So I like to start with actually, some of my actual collages, glue, ink, ripping, scissors, and that's where I like to start because I really enjoy mark making, and I see mark making not just as obviously a pencil and ink, but the mark of a rip, a tear. And how you reconfigure something that has been so beautifully presented, maybe in a magazine or a bill poster, and how you can interfere with that. And that's what maybe starts off my imagination of the corruption of the image. But you mentioned about being prolific. I firmly believe that artists should be very prolific. I don't prescribe to the idea of you should only make a few pieces and maybe work on them for a long time. That's not how I work. I like to push the boundaries with my work by making a lot of it and seeing where things can improve. You make big leaps sometimes. You find new themes by making quite a lot of work. And I think artists are always searching for some kind of truth, aren't they? They're always searching for some kind of pure element to their work. And I think you can only really find that by being prolific. Um, and so that's certainly the way I work. But I will start by literally just ripping some pages, gluing some things together, starting to make some marks, and then take it from there. But when I take it into the digital, that's where I believe the magic really, really starts for me. Because I think just that void space where you have something that's analog and then you take it into the digital, there's a bit of a void there where you're actually asking the computer to start to go on that journey with you. And I think that's a beautiful partnership. As I think I've said before, I had one of the first ZX81s, which was a very, very basic gaming computer, but I absolutely love computers. I always have. So I really enjoy making digital art with my Mac. It'll soon be my new Mac, but no, I really enjoy that. So that's my process, and I think sometimes you can be very prolific as an artist, and you're really a great amount of output, and then other days, like anything, you sit there and you kind of look at the blank canvas and go, what am I going to do today? So yeah, it swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. The idea of being prolific as an expression of your creativity and to find what you're looking for. I identify with that just from a writing standpoint of practicing writing every single day, not being too precious about things, just experimenting with ideas, forms to find a rhythm and to feel comfortable with that sort of expression. But as a visual artist, this is what I'm curious about too. Like, how do you know when you're finished with a piece and you upload it? Is it a feeling? Is it just like, that's it? Or are you looking for something in particular? Are you looking for the piece to look a particular way? How do you get to that finished point when you know you're done with a particular piece?
For me, it just kind of clicks. You get to a point where you're feeling your way towards the end of the work, and then you just kind of know that I've just got to add that, or just maneuver that and click. And that for me is what happens. It just clicks into place. But some works, I mean, some of my collages are very detailed. So those they are works that I've taken a lot longer with, and there's a lot of exploration of mark making and texture. But other pieces, certainly the Old Money Corrupts, it's just a feeling of, it's just the right amount of corruption and beauty, as you've mentioned. So, and also with the colours, I've got the colours just right. And you also don't want to ruin it, so you don't want to overstep the mark. So it is a fine line, but no, it's just a feeling.
Mm-hmm. And then your main tools is it like Photoshop, or are you using some other like next level applications on the Mac?
I'm using Photoshop at the moment, but as I've mentioned, I've got an old Mac at the moment that I'm replacing at Christmas. So I'm really looking forward to starting to use all that new memory. But my old trusty Mac's been a loyal servant. But I think you do need the new technology to be able to really explore some of the amazing things that you can do now. I mean, there's some great artists out there really exploring the tech side of art, like Matt Kane and Sato and Coldy. And I think these guys are really pushing the limit on it. So, it's amazing. I mean, every single day when you look at the platforms, I'm amazed by what people have done. And I think that's only going to increase.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Matt Kane. I saw the tweet the other day where he was explaining how he actually programs the algorithms himself that he uses to create his pieces. And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
That is a whole nother level. Can you imagine programming Photoshop to actually use that to make the visual art? That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Kane in particular. I mean, you touched on collaboration before, but Matt Kane would be probably top of my list for a collaboration, because I would love to see what his algorithm could do with one of my detailed collages. I think that would be amazing.
I can already see like the layers on that side angle that he likes to do. I can already see all those pieces. I think that application to what you're doing would really help people understand like how deep it is right away. I think that would be beautiful.
But I think the collaborative element of the CryptoArt scene is really, really exciting too. I mean, I've already done one with Max Osirizes, and I'm currently doing one with Stina Jones. And I think this is So we've got something cooking at the moment. But I think this area is going to be really, really innovative for the movement in a way that the traditional art market really hasn't really had much of, has it?
Yeah, no. That's one of the emergent themes that it's been so amazing to watch within crypto art, but crypto broadly, because it's this uncensorable open source money that's really facilitating this kind of collaboration amongst people all over the world immediately, right? And within crypto art, like obviously that expression is at its most beautiful and it's most apparent. Like the Saint Nakamoto piece I scooped up from Da Vinci and A Lot of Money. Again, like another amazing collaboration. But for your collaborations with like Stina and Max, were you utilizing known origins smart contract where you can add multiple addresses so that the funds get dispersed automatically? Or like how exactly are you going about the collaboration from like that crypto perspective and smart contract area? Or is it just trust-based at this point?
The one with Max, I think he just put it on Super Rare, so it was just on Trust. But with Stina, we'll probably have a go at the new feature on Known Origin. I think that sounds really exciting. But who knows where this is going to end up? There's so many great artists with such great styles and individual brands on all the platforms that the sky's the limit, really, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And then bringing this back real quick to Scent. I know you've had a bunch of posts on Scent. I'm just curious from your perspective, like what could we do? What could we add? What could be improved about our product, our tools that would help you create or share more on Scent?
I really like the format at the moment. I think it's engaging. I think it's it's obviously real time. I think if there was anything maybe to try and encourage more discussion. I think the discussion element's really interesting on Scent. But I think the whole concept's mind blowing. I mean, to be blogging and earning some cash from it is fabulous. I mean, bring on more of it is brilliant. But I think if there was just maybe a bit more discussion, but I think the platform at the moment's great. I mean, I think being able to make some cash from posting and commenting is the way forward.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with that. Being able to more reliably incentivize that thoughtful discussion, which again, like we just need to be able to more reliably provide that to more users as we scale, but 100% on board with that.
Artists are quite sensitive souls, and we're all working away in our own practice. So to try and encourage that sociable sharing element, I think it's really supportive to artists in particular. I think it's really encouraging, and it means it's not lonely. It's
Mm-hmm.
you can get out there chatting to other artists, chatting to collectors, and really get some great feedback. And I think artists in particular really need that.
I totally agree. Well, you've been super generous with your time. It's been an awesome conversation. And I'll just wrap up with the question that I ask all of my guests. If there's any creator on Scent that you would like to see spotlighted in the future, please give me your list and I'll try to make that happen.
Okay, brilliant. I think my partner Nori Harmon. I don't know. Do you know his work? I don't think he's on Scent yet, but I'll have to get him on there. X Copy and Max or Isis, who I've already collaborated with. I like J Car, Josie Bellini. I think she's brilliant, and Ophelia Few. There's just a huge number of artists. I mean, there's actually too many to list, but yeah, that's my top list at the moment.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure to finally be able to speak with you. Being such a fan and collector, it's these moments are always super cool, and to find out that we're so aligned in our thoughts, and just to dig deeper into your process, it was fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for chatting. Great to speak to you eventually.
Yeah. Well, anyway, well, have a great day and an awesome weekend, and keep creating.
Yeah, you too. You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.